Welcome back. This is video number 3. We are covering the royal family, and they have really been out, about, and busy. We have a lot to cover, so let's just jump in and get there, shall we? Let's go. We're going to start with the Duchess of Gloucester. She met with St. John ambulance volunteers of all ages in Cardiff on April 24th. She heard all about the fabulous work that they do, learning, motivating, and providing first aid across Wales. Very nice. All right, let's move on, and we're going to do Sophie now. Sophie is the very first member of the royal family to visit Ukraine since Russia invaded. Of course, the information was put out, but it was embargoed. Now, I'm going to tell you what Sophie did, but it's more than likely not in the correct order. Okay, you guys? So I'm just going to cover everything, but again, probably not in the correct order. Here we go. We know that Sophie arrived and met the president of Ukraine, Mr. Zelensky, on April 29th in Kiev, I believe it's pronounced, and she gave him a private message from the king. Sophie then did what she did best, and first she met with survivors of a certain kind of violence and torture that happens. It was at this time that she went to the United Nations Population Fund, the UNFPA offices, to meet with some of the war victims. While Sophie was there, she spoke to specialists that were there at the center, as well as visitors, about the challenges that come about on a daily basis. Now, we know that since 2019, Sophie has been actively supporting the UK government's initiatives to support survivors of conflict-related violence. We know what kind of violence that is, that she, takes care of. It was reported that Sophie was, and I'm quoting, keen to show her solidarity with men, women, and children affected by the invasion of Russia. Next up, Sophie, with the ambassador of the United Kingdom to Ukraine, his name is Martin Harris. Sophie went to visit the memorial to the victims of the Russian occupation. This also took place on the 29th of April in the town of Bucha. Some of these are really, really beautiful memorials. It looks like it's made out of bronze. I like that. And I'm really, really happy to see Sophie there. All right, let's move on. Now, also, while still in Bucha, Sophie went and lit a candle when she went to visit St. Andrew's Church in Bucha, Ukraine. Back in Kiev, also on the 29th, Sophie attended a reception at the home of the ambassador of the United Kingdom, Martin Harris, where she gave a speech. Knowing Sophie, I'm sure that her speech was wonderful, heartfelt, and I think it meant a lot to have her show up there, in the middle of a war, no less. All right, let's move on to her next event. Next up, also on the 29th in Kiev, Sophie went with the Ukraine First Lady, Mrs. Zelensky, and they visited the St. Sophia Cathedral. It looks like a beautiful cathedral, so here's the pictures for you, and I'm just putting it to a little music. Here you go. Of course, Sophie signed the guest book at the end. All right, moving on. Now, also on the 29th, Sophie went to visit the family center of the NGO Save Ukraine in Irpin. Now, this is interesting. Ukraine says that 20,000 Ukrainian children, including thousands of orphans, were kidnapped by Russia since the full-scale invasion in February of 2022, and 400 of them have now been safely returned to Ukraine. There are also children there who were forcibly separated from their families and deported by Kremlin authorities into occupied territories or mainland Russia. Why does that not surprise me? Also in Irpin, Sophie went to visit a car cemetery. Personally, I think she was very, very brave to go there. And you guys know what I'm about to say. A big thank you to Remoulade Sauce for showing us all the outfits that she wore on that one day while she was in Ukraine. Also, some information came out that she came in by train. So there's a picture of her on the train. And once again, a big thank you to Remoulade Sauce for showing us everything she was wearing. Let's move on. We're still going to talk about Sophie because this article really caught my attention. They're pointing out that Sophie is the champion of women's rights, and she's the one going into war zones and denouncing Putin's forces for using, certain assaults as weapons of war, while Megan, who's supposed to be a feminist, is hawking jam by celebrity friends. I mean, they're saying Megan's work for women's rights has totally gone down and, the toilet. She could have flourished in the royal family, but it's essentially gone because she's too busy trying to make money as an influencer selling cookery and gardening and homemaking, feminist activities. Let's move on to Princess Anne. In case you don't know, she's the admiral of the Sea Cadet Corps, and she went to visit them. On April 27th, there was a national drill and piping competition on board one of the ships. And so Anne was there, and the judges were there, and she got to put medals on people. And I just love her. All right, let's move on. Mike Tindle, we love Mike, Zara's husband, got to spend a day in the life of an armed forces serviceman, and he drove a warrior vehicle around a military base. He explored the training as part of a Ministry of Defense campaign to keep the public safe on military land. They're not saying that people shouldn't go on the land, but they're urging the public to check firing times and make sure about your personal safety, because there could be live firing, there could be an unexploded ordnance, there could be very fast-moving military vehicles. And so they just want people to, they said Mike said, and I'm just reporting, he said it's really an eye-opener to see how quickly the land went from calm to combat, so just be careful. They said it's just vital that everybody, when you visit these sites, know how and when to access the land safely. So, they're not saying that because it's military land, you can't be on it. Visitors are welcome, they said, but access the sites where and when it's safe to do that. That's all they're saying. But Mike had a good time driving that thing around town. Could you just see him behind the wheel of the tank? Wow. All right, you guys, you know what I'm wanting. Hit the like button, hit the subscribe button. Don't forget to go down into the description box. You'll find the links to my Twitter, my Gettr, my Rumble, my email, my Patreon. Don't forget to join us there. My Amazon wish list. Don't forget my father's book is still up for sale. If you've donated to my coffee fund, thank you so much. And as always, you guys, have a great day.